Hey guys, and welcome to a battle featuring the Dark Elves led by the legendary Stormrunner up against Monty of Sons of the Mountain, I believe the clan is called, but either way, really cool group of lads as well over there, so should be a good fun game indeed. So for the forces of the Dark Elves over on the right hand flank here, we do have double Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, one of the most common picks in the Dark Elf roster. Anything that is this disgustingly fast with so much AP is always a must pick in most matchups. For the front line, we have a pretty cheap and cheerful group of lads, with Black Ark Corsairs on either flank, with Bleak Swords in the centre pocket as well. They all do fine up against state troops, however, so pretty good, bargain troops, I suppose, overall. In the secondary line, we do have double Dark Shards with shields, can trade very effectively up against handgunners and the like. Nice arc of fire as well to get the best out of them. And in the back lines, we have double Cold One Knights for a bit of protection play. These guys trade pretty effectively as well up against Empire Knights, so I quite like these guys as a pick. Up in the sky, it looks like we have a bit of an air corps coming in with the double Harpies, who are going to be working as bodyguards for Morathi on top of her evil steed here, who does look incredibly cool, the Dark Pegasus. Coming in with the Wand, as well as a Deadly Onslaught, Soul Sealer of course, Melkoff's Mystifying Miasma, and she has her items and abilities as well. We also have a Master, again up on top of his horse, and when bringing a Master, I always think they should be on the same mount as the Lord they are protecting. So you don't want a Master on a horse or a chariot or whatever. In this situation, you need him up in the skies protecting Morathi so he can do his job. And he's anti-large, pretty decent combatant overall, and a decent air force should be able to take down some large threats that the Empire do sometimes bring in the skies. Now for the forces of the Empire, it looks like we have a Rohan build, which I'm always a big fan of. My favourite character from Lord of the Rings is indeed King Theoden. He's just so goddamn badass. So, on the left-hand side, we have Reiksguard and Empire Knights, and in the centre pocket, once again, we have Empire and Reiksguard Cavalry. Looking pretty bad to the bones. Pretty decent shot cav, will struggle up against the Cold One Knights, but they're certainly going to be able to run over that front line very quickly. We have a Grey Wizard as well, coming in with the Pendulum, as well as Melkoff's Mystifying Miasma to slow down those pesky Dark Riders perhaps and catch them. And over on the right-hand flank, we have the real core and punch of the build, coming in with Knights of the Blazing Sun, Demigryph Knights with Lances, and Demigryph Knights with Halberds. So a nice mix of troops overall. We do have a Warrior Priest as well, going to be buffing up these guys. I'm a big fan of this guy on horseback, rolling with cavalry blobs. He has Shield of Faith, Soulfire, and Hammer of Sigma. And up in the skies, we do have the Lord for the Empire today, Boris Todbringer on his own Pegasus, coming in with Deadly Onslaught, Foe Seeker. He also has the Rune Fang for that nice regeneration, and the White Cloak of Ulrich. Going to be a very interesting game. A lot of the Empire forces basically negates kind of the potential of the majority of the Dark Elf troops here. Black Ark Corsairs and Bleak Swords aren't going to be able to get too much value at all. However, the air game is going to be massively in favour of the Dark Elves, who should be able to assassinate Boris with relatively decent efficiency. Over on the right-hand side, looks like the Empire advance has been pushed back slightly, and oh my god, a huge pendulum goes down on those Dark Shards there, pretty much wiping out both units straight out of the bat, both below kind of a third health, and running from the hills early on there. Lovely play. But over on the right-hand side, Dark Riders with repeater crossbows doing some pretty decent, consistent damage to Empire Knights, and shooting into the back of them like this is going to get some fantastic value. Knights are slamming into the front line on top of the Bleak Swords, but up in the air, Boris has been caught and completely surrounded, and he's going to get absolutely decimated by the rending claws of the Harpies, mixed in with the Halberd and anti-large play of the Master and Morathi. And Boris goes down here within the first minute and a half of the game. Losing your Lord like this is scary, and there's no chance of a comeback here for him back to the battle. However, in the main line, you can see the entire Dark Elf infantry force has just been run over, which can happen when you do invest so much in cavalry and your opponent isn't prepared for it. Bleak Swords have been pretty much decimated to the point of being shattered. We have some Black Ark Corsairs who are desperately trying to fight at this point, and Dark Shards attempting a rally. We have another lovely pendulum going down. Looks like for the most part, though, Stormrunner managed to avoid it, although kind of one unit took a bit of a battering. They're about to overwhelm the Reiksguard here. Cold War Knights, pretty decent cav all round. Dark Riders and repeater crossbows certainly paying for themselves here, doing decent damage across the board, and again that consistent fire in. However, there's still the more elite cavalry to deal with in the form of the Blazing Knights, or Knights of the Blazing Sun, sorry, and as well as the Demigryph Knights as well. in this big blob. It looks like the War Priest is completely surrounded, but he's going to drop his bombardment, which nukes those harpies with deadly efficiency here. Looks like he's going to be able to break those guys off, and Morathi's a little bit stuck there, but a fantastic Soul Stealer does come down and catches most of the big units here, which is pretty good value. In the distance, we do see Demigryph Knights are being used to clear up troops. Now, normally this would be a good idea, but the Demigryphs are really needed in the main fight at the moment, so if these were kind of the basic Empire Knights, it'd be much better. But still, Demigryph Knights rolling over Dark Shards is still value, I suppose. We do have a Melkov's Mystifying Management going down on the Dark Riders, but nothing to follow it up with. It looks like some Reiksguard and Empire Knights a little bit slow on the draw here. Needed to kind of time that with the Melkovs to catch these guys down, but still some decent damage done to them overall, I suppose, anyway. Then in the main blob fight, we still have the desperate infantry troops here. The Black Ark Corsairs holding the line with Morathi, who's been an absolute world beater here. And in comes the Master as well, pinning in a lot of the really key units for the Empire. Grey Wizard does have Shield of Faith popped on him currently, as well as these Knights of the Blazing Sun, but it's not doing him much good, as he does get torn apart here in glorious hand-to-hand combat, and he is going to be fleeing for the hills. Melkov's Mystifying Miasma slowing him down, but it looks like the Dark Elves, oh no, looks like they are going after him. Morathi and the Master should be able to catch up and finish him off. Now, in come the Demigryph Knights, probably pretty angry right now after all the damage that has been done to their forces, but it looks like for the most part the Dark Elves are starting to run out of steam. All the Cold War Knights are pretty much finished off, and the ground forces as well are equally running for the hills. However, catching this Grey Wizard and finishing him off is going to be huge value, leaving the Empire with just a Warrior Priest to lead the remaining forces of a kind of heavily beat up Knights at this point. Dark Riders need to just keep skirmishing here, falling back as far as possible, and unleashing salvo after salvo of those armor-piercing arrows into the beleaguered Knights will be pretty damn good. Now, one thing which is going very well for the Empire is they have a pretty much full health unit of Demigryph Knights here, rolling with the Warrior Priest, which is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with if they can catch their opponents here. There are some Harpies up in the skies as well, who are going to be floating back. Don't think there's much chance of them saving these poor Black Ark Corsairs, but they are going in anyway, and Harpies don't have the worst combat stats. Not fantastic, but at the same time, Empire Knights and Reiksguard are pretty kind of mid-tier cavalry, so I'm sure they can at least do some damage before they do inevitably break and flee. At this point, balance power is in favour of the Dark Elves, probably due to the fact they still have their Lord on the field, who has just escorted off that Wizard. Dark Riders continue to try to flee, as Empire Knights actually shatter here by simply being too close to the opposition. However, Demigryph Knights have a much better leadership than your average troop, and they're going to be sticking by their Warrior Priest, although the Master and Morathi coming in for the double assassination here. A little bit risky with so many Demigryph Knights available, and Demigryph Knights with Lances actually do more damage to enemy cavalry than ones with halberds, which is kind of surprising because halberds have that bonus versus large. The halberds are much better at taking down actual kind of big monstrous creatures. So I'm not sure how it works on single entities, but either way, they should be able to do a decent amount of damage. The War Priest trying his best here to lead his forces, but getting absolutely decimated as Dark Riders actually charge into combat on top of the very buffed up Demigryphs, just to try and flee from the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Looks like one unit has managed to escape the pocket, however. I believe we have a wand coming down from Morathi here. On top of the Demigryph Knights, we should get some pretty good value. Balance power is massively in favour of the Dark Elves, but despite this, the Demigryph Knights are going to be an absolute menace to deal with. I suppose the Master and Morathi combo may be enough to carry here. Now, Dark Riders can start to turn the face and shoot a few more arrows into this blob, which is certainly going to help out this beleaguered Master, who's completely surrounded at this point, slowly getting dragged down. You can see Morathi does manage to get up in the air and flee here. We have the Warrior Priest rallying as well, bringing some Reiksguard with him, but it looks like it is what you see is what you get. Elsewhere on the battlefield, we simply have some routing troops and some pretty beat up Harpies who aren't going to have too much effect on the battle. It's come down just to the Hero Corps and one unit of Dark Riders, which is scary stuff. So they're about to get charged on all flanks here by Knights of the Blazing Sun and Demigryphs, who are very elite troops, but it looks like it was a tiny bit too late, as the Warrior Priest here is actually going to break, and a fantastic game-breaking Soul Stealer there, which is indeed going to rout all of these troops, seeing their Warrior Priest shatter looked like it turned the tide there. But very close game overall. Two very different styles of play, and a Pyrrhic victory for the Dark Elves. So very well played to Stormrunner and Monty there. Super fun game all round, and a double shout out to Stormrunner for sending this one in via my Discord. So, really fun builds all round. I'm a massive fan of going Rohan every now and again. It's pretty hard to pull off, and there's some heavy micromanagement stress as well. But Monty certainly did a decent job. As you can see, the majority of the Dark Elf force got 0 kills, dotted all the way along their infantry, but fantastic play with the Dark Riders, who you can see did chevron up quite nicely, staying out of those engagements, keeping them alive, and focusing firing down the Knights, mixed in with some very good Cold One Knight play, as well as Morathi and the Master, who are real kind of MVPs there. Able to assassinate Boris with deadly efficiency before zooming in and picking on key targets, killing the Wizard, focusing down the Warrior Priest, and pushing that balance power more and more in favour of the Dark Elf. So overall, super entertaining stuff. And guys, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more Total War Warhammer content. Try to have videos out at least 5 to 6 days a week, as well as 1 or 2 streams during the week. If you do want to get your replays up on the channel, feel free to join my Discord. There's a link down below. There's a channel you can submit them in there. And if you want to support the channel in any other way, there's links in the description on how you can do that. Anyway guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.